That's always been a big major conversation for you. And I get the frustration, but on the flip side, I'm speaking to you from experience. I've been involved in politics for now, 12 years? 12 years dedicated, involved in politics, while also working in the private sector, getting elected, getting expelled, winning an election, losing an election prior, all these things. I can tell you this with every fiber of my body. It is misguided to put this much energy into something that will ultimately fail. It is actually counterintuitive to Elon Musk, who is dubbed one of the most brightest minds of our generation, to do this. Call Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel didn't want Liz Cheney in the House. He funded Harriet Hagman. Peter Thiel wanted options. He got J.D. Vance and turned him into a senator who is now vice president. Elon Musk has a lot more money than Peter Thiel. He can do a lot more in changing the construct of the quality of candidates in the Republican Party and advancing a more fiscally conservative caucus. So I think it's misguided at best to start a third party. And lastly, coalition governments, just please look up coalition governments. Leadership in a coalition, you have to have coalitions amongst multiple parties. It's all about compromise. Nobody wins. So we in a worse position than we are today.
I think
if we went down the coalition government.
I think Elon will take the best candidates from both parties and end up bringing them, into the center, into the American Party. You can Thomas Massey, you can take Rand Paul. You can
Rand
take
Paul's not
on
going to the
Democrat.
Republican Party. Hold on, Brian. Hold on, real quick, Brian. I think you have a friend on the stage. Go ahead, April. I think she probably agrees with you. April.
Okay.
Hey, yeah, real quick. So first of all, I'm in the middle of a massive project that requires a lot of physical energy. I'm unloading a bunch of gravel, so people just start yelling at me. Honestly, I don't have the energy for it. Here's my thing. I want to just talk about the H-1B thing because I'm going to get that out of the way so I can say what I really want to say. Microsoft right now is laying off 3,000 people in my state, which is Washington, and they are applying for 6,500 H-1Bs. If Trump denies that, then you guys have a leg to stand on, because I don't like that either. Immigration is one of my top issues. It's not my top issue, though, okay? My top issue is the debt. Julie has been in spaces with me for 2 years. I talk about the debt constantly. I'm in my 50s, so I'm old enough to remember when people cared about the debt, okay? This was back in the night. You guys want to bring up Ross Perot. Ross Perot actually got people talking about the debt, and it started a national conversation. That's why when Clinton got elected, he and Newt Gingrich actually worked on cutting government spending. It was because the people demanded it. Okay, if it wasn't for Ross Perot, I see a bunch of people thumbsing down and ha-haing, I don't give a fuck, honestly. If you want me to leave, that's fine. For real.
Continue, but...
Okay, just listen. Okay, because you guys are no one's going to side with Elon, and I'm hey, I'm someone that would...
Listen, can I just say real quick, with Elon...
No, we're going to
let her speak. Hold on, guys, let her speak.
Interrupting me.
Guys,
for the love of God, this is like a Trump hump fest space. Let me just say what I have to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
My God.
Let her speak.
Again, I can unload gravel right now because I need to do that. Okay. So I fucking care about the debt because I have kids and because I'm smart enough to understand that this is a train wreck coming. Okay, we're now at and you guys can care or not care. What you have to know is that there are people that care. So you don't need to be people that care, all right? Because you're not going to gaslight us into not caring, because we do care. So if Elon can at least bring a national conversation about the debt, okay, I'm sorry, but people went into this thinking that Doge was actually going to do something, all right? And I knew it wasn't going to, because I knew that Trump is fiscally, he's fiscally reckless. I'm sorry, it's just fucking true. And I knew that Congress wasn't going to do shit either. But we need to actually, again, let's go back to the 90s. Ross Perot comes up. If you guys Google it, you will find a 30-minute YouTube clip where he actually took out time and did an infomercial on the debt and why it was so important. And that actually got people behind it. I've been saying forever that we're not going to do anything about the debt until the public demands it. The public has to be the ones that demanding it. And right now, they don't understand how bad it is and why they should care. That's why nobody's doing anything about it. And so here's my thing. Like, I will vote Republican in my state. I'm in a very blue state. I do the best I can to help people here and to bring some balance. But if you are going to tell me that Republicans have the presidency, the Senate, and the House, and they are still going to blow up the budget by what, $4 trillion or whatever? Like, tell me why, as a fiscal conservative, that I would vote for that. There's no reason to vote for that. I do like
April,
what he's doing with immigration.
Can I give you a pushback on just one point real quick, if you don't mind?
Yeah, you should, George, because this.
So
But you're not going to convince me. I'm not convincible.
I'm not trying to convince you.
The world is.
I'm not. Oh, the debt is like climate change. Are you insane? We're spending $1 trillion a year. Okay, I'm going to go and let gravel. If I start yelling, then that means I'm dipping out.
You have to let him talk too.
I just want to ask you a quick question. So I agree with you that setting us back an additional $3.4 trillion is reckless. I concur with you. I mean, I'm fiscally conservative. Never voted for a CR in the 11 months I served in Congress. Okay, I didn't. I would not. It goes against every fiber in my being, right? It's vote for Kevin McCarthy's suspension of the debt for Joe Biden, giving Joe Biden a blank check. I just didn't. I couldn't do it, right? It would have gone counter everything I stand and believe in. However, OMB just put out a report fact-checking a little bit of like what's going out there. I'm not defending the big beautiful bill in its entirety, but I will now work with as much as I can. The bill doesn't actually, in fact, set us back $3 trillion because it fails to equate the tariffs income that if you put year over year, based on the projections of what has been coming in so far, and if you follow CNBC, who's pretty good at reporting numbers, they'll tell you the same thing, that if the tariffs continue to track in the direction it is, this bill might just be paid for altogether by the end of President Trump's term, adding zero to the deficit. Now, again, that's all based on projections. So at this point, we need to hope that everything pans out as planned, right? But on face value, I agree with you. It's kind of like a bad bill. It could have been better.
Okay.
Good job.
So if Kamala Harris, first of all, don't even get me started on the tariffs because Americans pay that. So I don't even want to get sidetracked on the tariffs because great, now we're paying more and it's going to, why don't you just take more money out of my paycheck and put it towards the debt? Okay, whatever. So I have to get past that.
Go shovel your plow. Yeah, seriously.
I know.
April,
You can't have it both ways.
Seriously.
Yeah, April.
You want the debt to go down, but, not to raise the taxes. Like, well, if we cut taxes,
Okay.
then that's no good.
I never said that we should be cutting. I don't think we should be giving billionaires a tax cut.
After World War
No.
II, which was
Yeah, that's the leftist talking point.
Oh my God, who's it, Julie? Knock it off.
I'm not doing anything.
6%.
No,
Yeah.
I have,
GDP
it's, first of all, to say I'm a leftist is so ridiculous.
6%. Okay.
When I order from Amazon 10 to 20 times a week and want Jeff Bezos to make all of his billions, so give me a break, okay?
You basically
Do you guys, no, serious question. This
You
is
get-
my going out statement, serious question. If Kamala Harris came out with a $1,000 credit with a Democrat House and Senate and said, we're gonna give every baby $1,000 in an account, would you all be applauding? He's created another entitlement.
I support it.
Yeah, I support it 100%. They would never do that. They would never do that.
Never do, but yeah.
You'd be like, welfare queens are gonna have more
No, I wouldn't,
babies so
April.
they can get
No, I
their
wouldn't.
taxes.
Democrats would never do that.
Well, I would, because I'm fiscally conservative, and even if it means I have to be mean to the people that are having babies.
You're more than
I don't care about your Medicaid.
conservative.
I don't care about shit, cut
It's
it,
not,
or we're screwed.
but it's.
So, April,
We're going to have a big problem if the childbirth rate keeps going down.
Without being muted.
I just can't talk
Thank
over
you.
Lewis. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just
So
not
thank
gonna
you.
do it. But I will.
Look, it's not me muting,
I
motherfucker.
muted it. I want to talk because I have something to say to April.
And then you muted me,
Well,
but
good. You can make your point after me, Lewis.
Fine,
Shut your
very
damn
good.
mouth, or I'll just take you off the stage. So listen, here's the deal. April, I had a congressman come in my space on last Thursday. I think it was last Thursday. His name is Brad Knott. He's from North Carolina. And we asked him that very question, like, what the hell are we doing with this debt stuff? Because a lot of people are alarmed by it. And he's, of course, is a Republican, because I got him campaign.
The country is
Here's
bust.
exactly what he said. Everyone is concerned about the debt ceiling. But we couldn't come in at 1.6 trillion knowing that if we went $1 over, the Democrats would ride us all the way to the next election. So we raised it higher, expecting we won't hit it, and we have the momentum from the big BBB, and we're going to continue to do rescissions based on the momentum, along with what is happening with the tariffs. So there is a plan. It may not be something you and I see or even can conceptually go, that's a good idea. I don't know that I necessarily agree with it. George might see something in that, I don't. But listen, at least I know that they are talking about how this appears to be and what to do next to resolve it, and why were some things left in there that shouldn't.
Damn, they kicked me! They kicked me! Oh, we got a lot of clips. I'm gonna need a burner account. I'm gonna need a burner account for fucking X. Damn. Sons of bitches. You see that shit? Woo! What a game! What a game! Let's see if we can find it. All my X accounts though are so branded, that's the problem.
Is exactly where she should be, and I think that she's got a real chance that she goes in 2026. And I hope you guys all get out there and help any of these, like, America First candidates get these rhinos primaried, because 2026 is going to be a different year, y'all.
I'm actually all in the space with Christian and I forgot his last name, but he's an Arizona GOP member, and we're gonna get a couple politicians in there to get everybody familiar with them. I think a lot of people got a little disgusted with the politicians, at least in my community over the last couple years. Creep structure of it will change, and it will do it from 2026 on out. It will be different. I don't think that we're going paper ballots just yet, full out. I do think that is the start, because once we get those American First people there, nothing. Do you understand that whatever legislation we want, you guys, after 2026, like the people, we didn't fund the wars. I think most of us would have said,
it's not the room.
We ain't sending our sons and daughters to fucking, sorry for my language, but to Afghanistan and all this stuff, what you're gonna find out is war equals laundered money. The more people, the more the United States stay at war, the more money they can launder and say, well, we're sending it here, we're sending it there. That's why they need World War III so bad. That's why they wanted it. We saw the mainstream media pushing for it so hard. Why would the mainstream media underreport about the missile strikes that hit the petroleum factories in Iran? Because they wanted people to think that they're still there, so Netanyahu can continue to attack. The nuclear threat, the whole time, in Iran was the alleged threat for Netanyahu to keep attacking. And it's gone now. So you have no reason to keep attacking. You see what I'm saying? Trump took that away from them, right? So, and now I think there's some type. You see how all the talk went from it's a war and Trump is bringing us into an endless war to now it's actual peace deal going on. And I trolled the shit out of that. I trolled it 100% because I told everybody, don't listen to these influencers on here. No offense, even myself. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. But out of everybody on here, when Trump says something, he got a security clearance. He got a great badge. He knows better than any of us do on this app what the hell is going on. So when 45-47 said, hey, we're doing a peace deal, I believed it because he didn't lie about Russia. He didn't lie about the election. The man ain't lied about too much or nothing yet. So when he says something, I do take it and I do my research, but I know that he's not lying. He has no reason to lie right now. He meant motherfucking business. And if you get peace deals, then you don't have what, you guys? Endless wars. And if you don't have endless wars, you can't launder money and say, hey, you guys, we're sending money to help out Israel or we're helping Iran. And now it's all, the cover's all blown off. You see what I'm saying? So the moves that are being made from this Trump administration, Pam Bunny, Cass Patel, Dan Bongino, Trump himself, even Rubio. I agree with Nikki on this. Rubio, he's been flawless. I'm not gonna lie. He's been very flawless. I think he has, and I'm gonna land here because I see Kyle here. And, but I'm saying, they have kicked ass and they're doing it fast, not as fast as we want, right? Because they got to make sure everybody knows who the players are. We're doing a counterinsurgency right now. You need the military, you need POTUS, and you need the backing of court of public opinion of we the people. We're going to have that. We have the populist movement. We got the momentum for the 2026 elections, midterms, and they don't have all they had for the 2024, and we still beat them in the 2024 election. It is going to be a slaughterhouse, and those federal judges that are aiding and that stopping these prosecutions from happening with the Epstein list, they're going to be gone, and everybody's going to be clapping their hands. So get ready, guys. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point about like these forever wars, right? So if you pay attention to patterns at all, one of the things that I was seeing with these patterns was our military had gotten the numbers, right? It had gotten really lower again. And so what do? They offer bonuses to try to entice people to enlist. When that doesn't happen, what do? They waive the high school completion or high school equivalency for those to join. This happened during Vietnam, then it happened again during the first Iraq War, then it happened again in 1999. Now, when that doesn't boost numbers, something else happens, a draft, something. So it didn't work. Nothing was working in 2000. So what happened to make people join by the numbers? Because in 2001, man, was our fucking military stronger than it had been in decades. Every young man, every young woman who felt a duty to their country went and signed up. The numbers in September of 2001, October and November of 2001 were historic highs. And by January, February, March, and April of 2002, our military had some of the highest numbers that it had seen. So,
September 11th.
Exactly. So there's things that have happened throughout our military's history where you can see these patterns occur. So just recently, while Biden was in office, they went ahead and started offering bonuses because our military numbers were severely lacking again, and bonuses weren't helping. So what did they do? They waived high school completion. They waived high school equivalency completion. Nothing was working. And this is one of the things Pete Hegseth said, we have to go back to our roots. We have to we have to make our war fighters what they were intended to do. And when he came in, he completely revamped the entire program. And when the young men and women saw that this is what was happening, he didn't have to create a duty to your country through crisis and through terror. He created it through the military becoming what it was intended, and numbers are back rising historically, and I'm not even sure if that waiver is still even out there, but our military is back becoming the warfighters are lethal. Men and women feel like they are doing a duty to their country, and they don't have to worry about, oh, am I going to misgender someone? Am I going to see something in a locker room that I don't want to see? Like, they're doing their duty to their country, and there's not been a crisis situation on this soil. There's not been anything, and it's kind of amazing. So,
That's when you get a man up in there. Pete Gates said change the tone.
Yeah, but two different things happened. And when Obama was in office, he depleted the military of money, and their machinery was weak, and there were more accidents happening in just training exercises, and people were dying. And then Trump stepped in, and it started to get strong again. And then Biden stepped in with the fucking COVID shot, and now that bullshit, and wiped out half of them. So the numbers are rising, but yeah, it is going to take Pete to get this, turn this back around, because the military has just been through so much.
Yeah, in 2009, Obama PTS basically 50,000 sailors from the Navy. You believe that? Just because he wanted to.
And dropped their wages. They dropped all of their wages down.
I wanted to ask y'all, and I wanted to ask a picture. What'd you think about this Elon shit, bro? Is this it gotta be a psyop. There's no way the man comes on tweeting about the fucking, like the Epstein list and shit. It's just too much. Like, there's no way. It's gotta be on plan, bro.
Right now. But if you get somebody that appears to be in the middle, why would he start an argument with Elon? I mean, why would Elon start an argument with Trump right now, right before he announces his other party? See what I'm saying? So that both
man, it's just sloppy.
Yeah, think about it. So, behind the scenes, they're really still cool.
Right?
Trump
The
is
Republican Party
babysitting
was
the man's
completely
son.
different the way
Come on now.
compared to what it
They're
is
cool.
today. They hated him. Everyone in the party trashed him. Lindsey Graham, even before Trump was elected, called him like the biggest mistake or something like that. And Trump did it. And Trump made them all, pretty much subservient to him. He won the primary. He got all these new voters into the Republican Party. He won these places we haven't won in gosh knows how long. Excuse me. And that's what Donald Trump did to change this party, okay? Could Elon Musk do the same thing? Yeah, he could. He's got the money to do it. Problem is, he doesn't think it's worth a damn. And I think maybe the Wisconsin Supreme Court election broke him. I don't know. But he's making a mountain out of a molehill with this. And I hate it. You know, I don't like third parties in general because of what happened in Wisconsin, in Michigan, and Nevada last year. Especially with Wisconsin, because Eric Hudday was a very charismatic guy. I mean, that mustache was great. Not to mention the number of House races. But, sorry, I just get so upset when I talk about third parties. I just don't like them.
Yeah, I think it's a huge waste of time and money.
We really do, you.
Huge waste of time and money. And
I
like
just
somebody
say
else
that a
brought
lot
up.
of this, like VP, a lot of this rhetoric, especially like what you're saying, this is what they were saying about Trump when he announced in 2020. I think it's very naive to just write it off. I'm sorry, like it's completely wrong.
That's a fair take. I mean, like, look, I could be totally wrong, but
It's not that wasn't a personal attack. I've just
No, I
heard
know.
many MAGA people are kind of just like writing it off.
So, hey, here, let me hold on. Let me make this point really quick here. You can theoretically fight against third parties, okay? Like last year in Iowa, by the way, I need to mute because
Eric.
Hey, Eric, if you can mute up, please. See?
Like last year in Iowa, we managed to kick off every single Libertarian Party candidate off the ballot because, you know, we had control of certain, we had control of the state Supreme Court and stuff like that. And getting them kicked off last year saved Marionette Miller Meeks, who won by a smidge.
She's a horrible candidate, though. I'm sorry. The reason she wins by a smidge in that district is because she's such a squishy Republican, right? That she's her own worst enemy. This goes back to, and I hate third party, man, right there with you guys, but this also goes back to candidate quality, right? Marionette Miller Meeks is a horrible candidate. Matter of fact, she's a horrible legislator. She actually is a terrible legislator. I have actually sat in rooms and heard her try to articulate points that had people scratching their heads, wondering what was the word salad that, like, Kamala Harris.
Trump carried her by like what? She was like 8 points under.
Yeah, she very much underperformed.
Hey guys, really quick.
Her hands are still bleeding from holding on to Donald Trump's coattails.
Really quick, we have a new statement from the king himself, Donald Trump, on Elon's new party. If y'all want to read it, then jump on Trump. Go ahead.
Somebody.
Come on.
All right, no, here, I can read it, and I can also do a Trump.
No, Trump.
George, you want to read it for us? It's so long.
Yeah,
Let me say real quick. Somebody said, you know, that George Soros took over the Democrat Party and, you know, kind of made it what it is. You know, and it was like we need a Soros on the right, and Elon was like, yeah, that's gonna be me, and then like, oh, actually, psych, I'm just gonna go start my own party.
Well, not just that, VP. My fear is George Soros fractured the Democrat Party and created this progressive band of lunatics. The last thing I want is Elon and his technocracy to come in and try to fracture the GOP and create a bunch of technocrat zealots to be part of our party.
George, they already exist, bro. Like, that's part of the problem. They already exist.
They're barely there. There's like four of them.
No, there's like thousands of them. Like all the people that bought their way into MAGA.
I'm talking elected.
Oh, elected. No.
I'm talking elected in Congress today. What are we? Maybe 4 that you can turn around and say, yeah, sure, these guys are bought and paid for by Silicon Valley. That's about it. You don't have more than that.
Okay, Steven, you want to read it for us?
Sure. All right, here we go. Donald J. Trump. I am saddened to watch Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck over the past 5 weeks. He even wants to start a third political party, despite the fact that they have never succeeded in the United States. The system seems not designed for them. The one thing third parties are good for is the creation of complete and total disruption and chaos. And we have enough of that with the radical left Democrats, who have lost their confidence and their minds. Republicans, on the other hand, are a smooth running machine that just passed the biggest bill of its kind in the history of our country. It is a great bill, but unfortunately for Elon, It eliminates the ridiculous electric vehicle mandate, which would have forced everyone to buy an electric car in a short period of time. I have been strongly opposed to that from the very beginning. People are now allowed to buy whatever they want. Gasoline-powered, hybrids, which are doing very well, or new technologies as they come about. No more EV mandate. I have campaigned on this for 2 years, and quite honestly, when Elon gave me his total and unquestioned endorsement, I asked him whether or not he knew that I was going to terminate the EV mandate. It was in every speech I made and in every conversation I had. He said he had no problems with that. I was very surprised. Additionally, Elon asked that one of his close friends run NASA, and while I thought his friend was very good, I was surprised to learn that he was a blue-blooded Democrat who had never contributed to a Republican before. Elon probably was also. I also thought it was inappropriate that a very close friend of Elon, who was in the space business, run NASA, when NASA is such a big part of Elon's corporate life. My number one charge is to protect the American public.
Well stated, Mr. President. Well stated.
Good readout, Stephen.
I know. I had
that was
a
very clean. Thank you.
for the president for how he could that very final line there. My number one charge is to protect the American public. I do have a suggestion, and I don't want to sound redundant here. If we could just end the H-1B program and remove all these migrants from our country, that would be generosity to the public, to the American public. Thank you.
I think that would undermine America's interest, and I can explain why. Although I don't believe in the expansion of H-1B, I do believe it's vital for us to remain competitive, especially with the races, the quote, quite literal arms races to AI that we are engaged with China. And here's why. It's not that we lack engineers. We don't lack engineers in this country. It's just that due to the failed approach of the Manhattan Project, we now sequester quite literally the top brightest American minds in engineering for our military projects and for all sorts of national security reasons. We keep them 100% American. So that removes a massive chunk of the brightest minds out of the work market. And if you decimate the private sector in that form, you'll set American companies back. I mean, so behind China. They would easily dominate in quantum, AI, and every vertical of technology you can think of. And that's why H-1B still is a great deal of, national security.
So, George, real quick, I heard a lot there, but there's one piece missing from that equation. That's the American worker.
Let me finish, and then you'll see. No, wait. Let me finish, then you'll hear. There's two issues with H-1B. One, it's been overly abused. And it's broadly abused for all sorts of different all different types of jobs in the, I guess, sort of say spectrum of jobs. But also, sure. But it's important to say it doesn't hurt the American worker as people believe it does, unless it's grotesquely misused, which I do believe it's been weaponized to be misused and take advantage of, and that needs to be cleaned up. But in the sense of H-1B visas for engineers, technology, science, and life sciences, I think it's a vital, important program to keep running with its limitations of specific parts of our industries and vocations so that we can remain competitive. Because our American brilliant minds are, for the lack of a better term, sequestered by our government to run top secret programs. I mean, that's
so
a fact.
George, if that's the case, can we just be honest? Like, can Trump be honest? Can the Republicans be honest? And the Democrats be honest and just say, you know what? You're allowed to have like slave labor. We won't call them slaves. You know, we'll call them visa holders or something else. You don't have to pay them as much as Americans. You don't have to give them benefits. You can pay them, a quarter of what an American worker would make, or maybe half
I don't think that's a fair statement.
That's
though.
what it is. I mean, it doesn't matter how we want to frame it. It is what it is. We can dance around it. We can try to make an argument for it because look, people may not want to accept it, but President Trump does hire H-1B workers, H-2A, H-2B. He is in real estate. So when he talks about exemptions or floating amnesty for farmers and hotel workers, I'm sorry, but we have a program at the University of Houston called it's the Hilton School of Hospitality. Are we familiar with the Hiltons? So look, I'm sorry, but there's people graduating with degrees in hospitality, and you're telling me that Jose needs to work at the Hilton versus this American because.
But yeah, I agree with you. The application in hospitality is erroneous. I was very specific when I said that. I don't want you to take my words out of context, or if you misunderstood me, I'll clarify that. I support it to remain for critical, specific, qualified, unique labor, tech, life science, bio. That's not what's
I know, but like again, tech is such a broad. This bill. I mean, sorry, this was passed in the 90s, 1990. Tech was very niche in the 90s. 1990, like nobody knew what tech was. It's 2025. Everyone has a fucking smartphone. We act like tech is some sort of niche. Everybody knows tech. Like, so what is it that is niche? What is it that?
I don't think everybody knows tech. I think that's
true. Drew, we might think.
Where'd you go, George?
Never lost George.
Can we just talking about EB-1A visa? That's the real talent visa that we're talking about. H-1B is not. As someone who went through the whole visa categories to actually immigrate here, H-1B is for a fact a slave visa for employers to lock down their employees. They're foreign labor employees.
Yeah, it's more. Okay. If you don't want to call it slaves, we can call it like indentured servitude, right? They didn't pay slaves, but indentured servants did get paid, so we can call.
Oh, I mean, it's no different than what the cartel does when they bring people over. Now you owe the cartel money, so you have to work for them and pay it off, and they stick you, someplace that's where all full of illegal labor, whether that's in a restaurant or a hotel or out in the field or whatever, or running drugs or stealing from Home Depot, whatever the cartel wants you to do. But you get your employment, you have to pay them, you have to, do your time. And they do the same thing with companies with these visas, except, actually the cartel's a better deal. Because at the end of your time of being with the cartel, you get thrown out on the street essentially, and there's no one that's got paperwork to deport you. Whereas if you're with one of these companies and they own your ass lock, stock, and barrel, guess what? They can just be like, oh, well, you know what, Jose? That's about enough. We're going to deport your ass now, or you're not going to. You're in the system now as having one of these visas, and they can also hold the job over your head, hold the benefits, hold it. I don't know. It's a bad situation, but there's really, to me, there's no big difference between what goes on there and with political donations for these H-1B visas to different office holders and presidents, presidential campaigns, etc. And what the cartel does, the cartel just does it by making deals with people, and then when you get across the border, stick a gun to your head and make you hold up their other end of the bargain. Elon, he makes deals with people, but he can't stick a gun to the president's head and say, oh no, give me my H-1B visas. No, we're gonna do what we want to. Maybe you get some, maybe you don't. Well, that's not enough for Elon. That's not enough for these companies. They're used to getting their H-1B visas when they ask for them. Just like Bill Gates just fired a bunch of people, now he's gonna try to hire a bunch. It's the same thing. These people want their damn H-1B visas, and it's not right. It's for slave labor.
I looked up True Social because I was curious about this. I wanted to see if True Social had any H-1B workers working there. Allegedly, before Devin Nunes started, running the place, they did apply for one, but the person never started working there. And then when Devin took the job, they canceled the sponsorship. So this is the perfect example of a tech company, True Social, that does not hire a single H-1B worker. Okay. I'm everything else is bullshit and excuses. Like we're done with it. Like I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Like, make it.
Drew, that's fair.
Okay.
Drew, that's fair.
Can I just add one more thing? So this is from my experience, right? So the AI conference I went to, do you know the first language in that AI conference in America? It's Chinese.
Not American.
Okay, it is Chinese. So we're talking about competing with China. We're using Chinese in America to compete with China. Do you think that's a do you not think that's a problem?
National security interests, like
It's not. Do you think that's not a problem?
to me that's a glaring national security interest right there. When you have foreigners running some sort of either AI or high-end technology, whether it be in the weapons space or recon space, whatever it may be, these should be Americans. You look at China, there is no fucking H-1B program in China. They use their own. That's it. I mean, I guess they do have like people from the Middle East and Thailand that they use for like.
They got communism over there too, so they can just kind of force people to not be in lesbian dance theory and actually take real classes. I mean, it's like, that's another thing over there.
I'm dying here.
I mean, that's part of the problem. I mean, I'm not saying we need communism, but I'm just saying, like, they wouldn't have wasted majors as much as we do.
We do also take a lot of Chinese students over here too.
When I look
We
at
do. Confucius Institute
of the
funding.
graduating college, the 25% of the CS graduates cannot find jobs out of Harvard. Okay, this is not a bullshit degree. And I'm sure Harvard has had their hiccups the past 10 years. They're like, I get it. Okay. But again, this is supposed to be a prestige university.
Well, wait, can't find a job though. Are we just saying like, that they should immediately get a job because they graduated with this degree? I mean, there's an attitude factor. There's a do you have any other work experience factor? That go into all this.
That's not it. No. I mean, traditionally those people get hired out of school by either like Google, Amazon, Apple, like one of these, whether it be like.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. Traditionally, they get hired, but
why now are they not? Why now are they not?
Those universities traditionally, those universities have partnerships with some of the.
Ever
top
considered
companies.
it's a bloated market?
Please let me finish speaking, DP. Thank you. So traditionally, those universities have relationships with the top companies across the country, and they have recruiting teams. It's usually volunteers plus a recruiter that oversees several universities and guides the strategy. They use the alumni from those universities who are at those companies to interview people on campus, bring them in as interns. As interns, typically there will be mentorship, development, interview prep, so that way they're really being sold as the strongest candidates possible, and they really develop those skills, so that way they are selling their strengths, and then there's a pipeline for them to go in there. For a lot of the top universities traditionally, they have those types of partnerships with several of the top companies. So it's extraordinarily problematic and concerning that we have this much unemployment for the top universities in some of these top degrees. That is a failure. That doesn't mean that the people who are at those universities suck. They don't suck. They got in there for a reason. If they're able to pass a CS degree, they're clearly capable. Sure, there's probably knowledge they don't have in terms of real life experience, and that's why we need to be able to get their feet in the door so that way they can develop that experience.
Well, I think it's foolish to just assume that because they got the degree, then therefore they're qualified. I think that's one thing that I just disagree with wholeheartly.
Well, I think that you just put a strong
I don't think you really work in that, so I don't think you can really speak on that. So I think, so I want to give you one fact, right? So look at all the middle management in the tech companies, and look at who hold those positions, the nationalities that hold their positions. It's probably 95% Indians. So if you're talking about this issue, we need to talk about this from a cultural perspective, which is if Indians get into the management position, they only hire Indians. Nepotism is not something we can ignore. Okay, this is a fact. This is something that the new graduates of the new American graduates is dealing with. You cannot brush it off. Just say, oh, they don't have
I
the
agree
skills.
with that. I'm sorry, that's kind of almost
even
like
if you have the
gaslighting
skills.
the American people. Like this shit has to stop. Like where it's like when he graduates from college, like tradition, like nobody has experience when they graduate fucking college. You just
Exactly.
fucking graduated college.
Right.
So by your logic, nobody should be getting jobs out of college because they don't have.
No, not nobody. Not nobody. I mean, the best.
Why do you have such little faith in the American people?
They're not the
I
same
would like
thing.
to answer after I make my next point. My next point.
No, I'm just very anti-college.
My point is that another challenge we have is if people are dealing with sensitive information from a corporate perspective, if they're here temporarily, what safeguards do we have in place to make sure that if their temporary work permit ends, that they're not going to take that back and violate intellectual property and then subvert the companies that were paying them to begin with? This is
Amanda, I can
highly
answer
risky.
that. I can answer that because I work in that particular in a field like that. Have to have a top secret clearance. They're not.
Dan, they just killed the guy.
Why don't you just let me speak for a second? We don't allow them to work in those specific areas. They can work in accounting. They can work over in project management. They're not allowed to have anything proprietary. They're not allowed to have particular areas. So they can't work with those customers on.
Yeah, this is what I would say, is if somebody graduated high school and then was an intern for 4 years in one of these tech companies versus somebody who graduated with a computer science degree, I would probably on the surface rather have the intern for 4 years that's been working, on the actual stuff rather than, a bloated liberal arts college, that also has a computer science program. I think that would be way better. And so that's all I really want to say is I don't think we should use graduation rates and acceptance rates or hiring rates as a metric to say this is not good.
I don't disagree with you.
Depends on the argument, VP, and the argument is against H-1B, okay?
Well, I'm not specifically talking about
You can't
that.
join any of the college recruitment programs at any Fortune 100 company with an H-1B. They won't allow it. We don't allow that. I did all the recruiting for the college hire program at a top 5 company. We do not take H-1B visa students in any technical, sales, or marketing program.
But this is what I'm saying.
I've seen different things from my experience.
There's a 25% void now. So what Margot's saying is that traditionally those people are not allowed. There's 25% of CS grads at Harvard that cannot get a job because that 25% segment has been replaced. Like those jobs are gone. Gone.
True. It's the same with Georgia Tech. It's the same with MIT. Those 25%, we're going to get a job anyway. Most of them are losers.
Exactly. Well, I mean,
so they've been replaced with, okay, no, not exactly. Okay.
I wouldn't say all of them, but a lot of them.
Okay. At the end of the day, they're Americans. Okay, so I'm sorry, like, we have to figure out how to get these Americans working versus just being like, well, they're lost cause, bring in Jeets and bring in Pradeep and bring in, like, that's not the answer.
Well, I agree.
That is what we do now.
It might mean taking some losses first. Like, oh, you don't get that job, so you go do this first for a few years.
That's not what we do.
Can I talk about how an Indian get a job?
Hey, serious, let me
Hold
talk.
on, let Margot speak.
I'll tell you.
I'm sorry.
That's not how we do it anymore. If we want to get good talent that we know is not going to take the college route, we go do things like hackathons where we know the nerds hang out. We go places where they are now and we recruit them and we say, hey, look, come work for us. You got 2 years to get a nano degree. We'll pay for it. And then you can work on coding projects all day long. We go out and try to find them now. We don't wait for them to come to us.
Can I talk about how an Indian get a job on H-1B visa? Can I talk about it?
Hold on, Josh. Hold on, serious. Josh is out of stand for a moment. Let's go to Josh real quick.
Yeah, I'm on like 2 or 3 topics back right now, so if that's okay, then I'll proceed.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
So I did the research to figure out the last time a true budget bill had passed, I guess, since we were talking about the big beautiful bill, which is, I think to say it's a great bill is just not true at all, but it is great that we are passing a bill that has spending cuts. The last time that we passed successfully passed a bill with all the appropriations was fiscal year 1997, and that's one of 4 times since 1977 that we've done that. So it is pretty significant to pass a actual budget bill. Now, I don't know who it was, Tron or somebody who was talking about third parties. You know, as some of y'all know, I was on the ground in Wisconsin back in October, knocking doors. Eric Hovde was very, and I met Eric Hovde. He was doing events. He was putting in the time and the work. Tammy Baldwin was nowhere to be found. So the fact that Trump wins that election and Baldwin doesn't really, I mean, Trump wins and then Baldwin wins just highlights, yes, the third party effect is not good. And plus, it also highlights the issue with our voters voting for Trump and then not voting for other Republicans down the ballot. But again, I can tell you that he put in far more work than Tammy Baldwin did, and still fell short. So that, I mean, that hits me rather personally after I talked to a million people about voting for Eric Hovde. But anyways, that's all I got for now.
Were you paid to do that? Hey Josh, did you get paid to do that? Did you work for Elon?
So I worked with Turning Point Action. I started out as a volunteer, and then I ended up getting paid because I didn't even know we could get paid for that until people started telling me, "Oh, you're not getting paid." I was like, "We can get paid for this?" So it was pretty good pay too.
So, good deal. You secured the bag. Hey, I want to go to Zuki for a second. Zuki, are you there?
Yeah. I just wanted to make a comment earlier because we were posting up stuff with the guy, like I think it was the LLC or the registry with the American Party. So this is not serious. I don't know. He's literally doing like every meme in the book about this like American Party. It's just too funny now. It's just like, okay, like, you had Siddhartha saying pledging allegiance. Like the guy lives in, I don't know if he even lives in America, saying he's part of the American Party. Like the guys that started, it's like insane deep. Like what's like this joke of a party doing? And it's already kind of like an optics disaster with like some surface level digging about well who's like being comprised in some political party. So I don't know if it's like a joke for Elon that people are going to easily forget. He's kind of launching things now, but I don't know. People feel like this is going to be a threat. I think it's going to eventually just be a bad joke come election time with all this stuff. Cause,
I mean, look, he filed the paperwork this morning, and he's tweeting at 4:00 in the morning. And I'm looking at the guy's name on the paperwork. I can't even pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. And it's a bank in California, Bank of America or whatever, right? And it's called the America Party. And I'm just like, is this like some kind of troll? Is this like a combination of like being a cringe fest for the sake of being a cringe fest? Like kind of like John Corbin.
I feel like, okay, it's super cringe, but like, it's like, I think it filters out people who are going to vote for this party are going to filter out people that are just pissed about Trump, not blindly going for all the H-1B stuff or whatever. And they're just going to be like guys that will just say, oh yeah, I voted for Trump. It's like, no, you voted for Trump like maybe last minute or say you did. Like Siddhartha, whatever, Cloud Watch or whatever his freaking ad is. Like, but all of these guys that are just all of a sudden that were on the Trump-Musk bromance bandwagon, and they're all kind of dumping, they're breaking off with Elon, but it's very insignificant people, I feel, that were always kind of like latching onto this bullshit. And I'll tell you this right now, he got the tech bros in, or whatever. There's like this tech bro, sphere guys that like we're all normalizing Trump because of Elon Musk or whatever. There's all people saying this, and it's like, there's tech bros that grew up in America that are actually American guys or whatever.
There's
a bunch of tech bros that are not with them too, though, Suki. I mean, the all-in-one podcast guys are not going to go with Elon.
Yeah, so there's going to be guys that are just like there's this claim about this tech breakup, and it's like, No, I think there's a lot. I'm telling you, I remember when the H-1B stuff. You had like liberal white women who hate Trump, who probably voted for Kamala Harris, that were like, you know, really angry at Trump, and then really hoped Trump would just kind of turn their backs on the whole H-1B stuff, because they're seeing themselves being replaced by foreign workers. And yeah, so there's a huge contingent that hate the H-1B stuff and this legalized immigration, like, you know, oh, you know, we just want to displace the worker the legal way kind of stance. Like, no, there's a lot of pushback within the tech sphere as well from this stuff. And I think they're gonna hold off to Trump. They're not gonna just break off with Elon for this party. Period.
Well, and with this whole America Party or whatever it's called thing, there's this belief among some people that there's no party that represents the so-called moderates or people in the middle. But that's literally, I would argue that the Main Street Republican Party is the middle. The Democrat Party is just radical left for the most part, except for Fetterman. But because most of the non-radical Democrats have left the Democrat Party, so the Republican Party really does encompass the moderates and the far right. But to be frank, despite what some of these so-called moderates will claim, that most of the Republican Party, including Trump, is not far right. They're more towards the middle.
I mean, I'd say no. I'm going to say there is a machine and contingent of so-called moderate conservatives still within the Democratic Party, although they might be weird online about it. But there's stuff going behind the scenes where they're kind of trying to push Gavin Newsom forward, because he's like their only hope to like clinch the primary and to like challenge whoever's next for 2028. I'm telling guys right now, Gavin Newsom, there's going to be a big push for Gavin Newsom to clinch the primary in 2028. I mean, yeah, for the Democrats to clinch the primary. Otherwise, but after that, you know, kind of the game's on for that. But it's not going to be a guarantee he's going to become like the next president. But there's going to be a serious push in all directions for Gavin Newsom to get that fucking primary position.
Newsom's not even popular enough in his own state to avoid getting a recall effort.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that there's a machine behind this guy, and he's going to get pushed in.
Well, they don't have their hack blue money, Zuki. They may not be able to push it through.
Okay, you guys can think that.
I'm not saying it couldn't happen. Don't get me wrong, because he's got a war chest full of money.
Yeah.
Stole.
Like the Dems pushed Biden. People just said, "Oh, the fucking Democrats, they're too radical." It's like they pushed Biden over a lot of people just to like, and he was just like almost brain dead by then. So like, this idea that like, oh, it's just they're like, no, they're ruthless, smart enough to just be willing to do this kind of shit just to get like. To seem normal, to kind of push it, like past everything else underneath the skirt, just that's how they operate. And people underestimate how Dems kind of operate in this regard. And I'm telling you right now, even though it's going to be a challenge for him for his past and all this shit, like there's going to be a push for him to get the primary.
But their party is in shambles compared to where it was at in 2020.
So, true. I mean, but again, they pushed Biden. They were able to push Biden through. They were able to take Biden away and then just like replace Kamala by not even by democratic means, so to speak. I mean, things can happen. They can do things.
Yeah, they had to pull in every favor they had and every crazy trick in the book to get Biden supposedly elected.
Then to get Kamala, basically, to basically take him out and put Kamala in.
And she put them in debt $1 billion.
There you go. So just a heads up, though, there's things happening to make sure Gavin Newsom's gonna, it won't be too obvious until later on. But again, it's like 2 years off.
Not to mention the whole like idea that money, automatically, like superior money makes candidates win. I mean, I went to Michigan shortly before the election just to see Michigan, and there was far more Kamala signs than Trump signs in Michigan. And then Trump won there by a bigger margin than Wisconsin, but based off the energy on the ground, you would have thought it would be the opposite.
That's just weird when they like somehow Kamala had a bigger showing in Wisconsin than Trump.
Wisconsin's fickle, man. I'm telling you, you can tell by the Supreme Court election this year. It's a fickle place. People, you know, they simultaneously reelected this idiotic lesbian Democrat, and then just 2 years ago, you know, reelected Ron Johnson. So it's a weird place.
I mean, I'd say it's very polarized and divided in the state of America, and even in the very flyover states we're talking about.
I think the idea of a third party also ignores all the progress that we've made, though. Because, you know, like if you go back to 2017, you only had like maybe a few good senators. Now you could argue you have like maybe 20 good ones and like 5 okay ones. And I think what a lot of people aren't getting, and I'm not calling anyone dumb or anything, but a lot of the reason we're not getting a lot done is because you still have a lot of these pre-Trump and even some cases pre-Tea Party Republican senators who are just only interested in expanding the government and spending, and they only do whatever the Uniparty says. So once these people are either retire and get replaced, but we also have to acknowledge that we're not doing a very good job of specifying who needs to be primaried and what needs primaried, right?
Some of them are taking those stones out though, Lapis. Come on, Tom Tillis is saying.
Well, yeah, Tom Tillis is retiring. I agree.
Well, yeah, but listen, like the problem is we know who needs to have a target on their head. Lisa Murkowski needs to go. Susan Collins needs to go. We got to get rid of some.
No, not Susan Collins. No.
Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. And then we got to look at in the House. There's people in the House that should go. Some of those New Yorkers need to get the hell out of there. Sorry, Ms. G.
Yeah, a lot of this is low-hanging fruit. It really is, like John Cornyn, right? I mean, it's really easy. Bill Cassidy
needs to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, until we can turn Maine, you know, more winnable, I am unfortunately in favor of keeping Susan Collins, but I'm definitely not a fan of her at all.
Here's the deal. We got to hit that 60 votes somehow. 50's not cutting it. That's how come we got some of these things we didn't want, because 50 is what we got, or 53 or whatever the hell we have. That's not enough. We got to do better.
I don't understand why Susan Collins gets so much hate. Meanwhile, you have people who are even more liberal than she is in these deep red states. Joni Ernst is essentially a leftist, and she's in a state that Trump won by nearly 15 points. He won by, 13, 14 points? And yet you have somebody who said that Trump was a racist for trying to arrest criminals. She supports, half of Biden's agenda. She voted with him, nearly 40% of the time. She's gone on record. Yeah, she literally wants the Biden green energy bull crap. She supports keeping that. There's nothing conservative about her at all, and she's up for re-election next year, and yet nobody wants to primary her, and they're focusing, we need a primary Susan Collins. It's like, dude, we need to get our priorities together. This woman is literally a Democrat. She is in the liberal Republican caucus. It's called Main Street. She is literally a member of this, and yet she has no significant primary challenger. So we're going to go another cycle where liberal Republicans can get reelected without being challenged whatsoever.
Yeah, but Lapis, we have a lot of important swing states to win next year. You know, North Carolina, Georgia, and Michigan state to pick up Senate seats or keep it in the case of North Carolina. So I don't, I'm all for primarying people like Cassidy and Cornyn and Graham and all this.
Ernst is unpopular though in Iowa.
Let him talk.
Yeah, but Lapis, thanks, Margaret. The thing is though, it's difficult to run a massive operation to upend 15 incumbents, and at the same time, when we're as those of us that are willing to put in the work, there's not necessarily enough of us at this moment in time to try to take on 15 or 20 incumbents in a single election cycle.
I'm not calling for that. I'm saying very, very specific incumbents who are very, 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 very liberal for their state. So, like, for example, I would say if I had to pick 3, I would pick Joni Ernst, Cornyn, and Mike Rounds, because they're very liberal for their states, and those states have shown grassroots energy before. Not that other people shouldn't be primaried, just I'm being realistic.
Well, Cornyn's gone, so you got 3 others.
Okay, I'll pick another one.
Well, no, there's 3 right there more, but there's always room for improvement, and there's definitely places we can go. Like Margot was saying, it's like, what do you mean there's no one we can get out here and work against? And yes, there are. There's always, and there's winnable races too, places where we can go, and we can definitely get these people out. And you don't get to ever look at seats like Murkowski or Collins if you never go take care of all the low-hanging fruit. So we're doing it in Texas on the state level in the legislature. We've done a pretty good job. It gets better every session. And I'm hopeful, and I know not everybody lives in Texas. They don't get to experience it. They don't get to see victories. They don't get to feel good about, oh my God, we're turning the corner here. We're making changes. We're making progress. So it's easy for you to get dissuaded and disillusioned and just angry or mad, and or just feel left out, or like nothing you do ever matters, and it's never going to matter, and we just do this forever. But it's not true. You can get these people out of there, and eventually they're going to have to leave, because the good Lord will take them. And when that happens, you have to be ready. And that's the reason people like Karl Rove and the establishment plays long ball. They're sitting around waiting, just waiting, hoping that a MAGA candidate or a MAGA elected official is going to drop out, so they can stick somebody in and shore up the seat for the establishment. They wait on pins and needles, and they have people ready all over the place. And if they don't have somebody, they'll pick somebody up and move them there and get them there just to do it. And they'll even run them even though they're not even in the district if they think they can get away with it. Brent Hagenview, remember their Hagenbach house?
Real quick question about
what they do. Go ahead.
So, I also wanted to point out that sometimes anti-establishment people will get a really close race and then they'll lose and then they won't run again. So, and then like the next time they don't do very well in that seat, or some neocon gets in.
Right, but then you also have the exact opposite, where people like Andy Hopper, who ran for state rep in Texas, ran 3 times and won on the 3rd time, and then these other people ran twice before they got elected. So it's not always bad news, Lapis. I understand. Sometimes it is.
Tom, you need to also factor in, you get 1 run if you don't have a lot of money. I mean, if you're tapped out and you're really trying to run, you can't do it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to come up with winning fundraising strategies. You have to hire professional fundraisers. You have to come up with real ways to fundraise money, which is not easy in Texas when you got 150 other people running for office. It's crazy. You got 86 Republicans in the House trying to get reelected. You got all these state senators, more than 20 of them. Just all these people run around asking for donations to soak up money, and then on top of that, you have all the county and local and everything else that's going on. So, yeah, that's a real challenge. And then Andy Hopper, what I suggest is you look at candidates that pulled it off, that were in it for 3 years, that didn't have the money, that had to learn how to raise the money. Don't go looking for the people that are just rolling in money for answers. Go look at the people that had to fundraise, had to figure it out on their own, and figure out how did they make this happen? What was their winning strategy? Like, that's where you got to be looking at, is being able to raise grassroots dollars in amounts large enough to make it happen. That doesn't mean you have to raise millions. You got to be able to raise enough to make the election happen, make sure that people know who it is they're voting for and why. Get your name ID out there. It doesn't take $1 million, maybe 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, depending on where you're running for. You can overcome the establishment. It can be done.
But Tom, do you have any good examples off the top of your head of people that have had great fundraising strategies?
Yeah, I mean, Andy Hopper off the top of my head, Brian Harrison off the top of my head. These are people that had no help from the establishment. These are people that ran for state ledge here in Texas. No help from the outside, did it on their own. Not easy, but did it on their own. Now, when he's talking about federal offices, a lot different conversation. You know, most people that they go to federal office have had, you know, opportunities to hold office in different seats. You're probably going to be a lot harder road for someone that is a MAGA candidate to go from being unknown to becoming a congressman. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene had the money, but there are federal limits to what you can contribute to your campaign as well. So she could have her own PAC with a bunch of money, but still her campaign dollars is just the people that she fundraises money from. That's the reason federal office is so much harder. You got all these limits, right? So there's quite a few Congress people, men and women on the right that don't get help from the establishment at all. Look at their money, Thomas Massey,